Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Oh no, I say that.
And what you and Harlan did that fateful night seems, at first glance, to fill that hole perfectly. A donut hole in a donut's hole.
Niet politia! Niet politia! Not a cop! This man is not a cop!
Nobody here is getting got. The only thing getting got is that doll. So let's go get it!
Hey, thanks for clicking. This is the one and only After School Podcast. I'm Trent, Kelsey.
Jesse Johns.
We're here to talk about 3 movies today. Let's start with Knives Out. One thing I like about it is you kind of brought up that it's starring Daniel Craig. And for me, what I expected going in was that he would be the main character who would be following him, the detective trying to figure out this case. But I think the main character really was Ana de Armas's character, Marta.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this movie, like you said, Trent, it mainly focused on her because in this movie, if I can remember correctly, that the family basically treat her like garbage because they thought that she was, I can't remember why they couldn't like her. I mean, I know there's something about it, they just did not like her day's personality or...
Right.
Yeah, but she did a good job at what she did for the older guy. I just think this was really good about Knives Out that they found out who the real guy was, and she did not do it. Honestly, whenever I seen the previews for the Knives Out trailer, I thought it was more like... the killer was Daniel Craig on some odd reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some odd reason I thought it was going to be him. I was like, no, he got to be the killer because the way they blamed on him and all that. He has a weird southern accent in this movie. He was like, I suspect a foul play, but I'd love to know that.
So you think because he had a southern accent, he was the killer?
No, that's not it.
It's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type thing.
No, it's just that it's just the way he worded it. It just sounded like,
Oh, you thought he was pretty suspicious?
Yes.
It reminded me of Foghorn Leghorn.
We were good to play, so.
I like what they did with the murder mystery angle to it because this kind of steers in a different direction from classic murder mysteries where, we should have mentioned spoilers earlier, but I think probably 25 minutes into the movie, you find out who did it. And instead of the movie just being a whodunit, it's the situation that kind of arises when you find out what actually happened. And I like that whenever it's this big complicated case, but then at the very end he's like, oh yeah, I knew it was you because you had blood on you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the very end where she did get that blood on her shoe, didn't it?
Right. And I think they show that in the earlier scene?
I think they did. The
mystery or the reveal was just the fact that he saw it and he just never brought it up.
Well, I like about the ending of the movie, that every time where her name?
Marta.
Yeah, Marta, the character. Where her character, if she lies, she throws up, and I thought that's kind of interesting.
That was a kind of a cool character trait.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. So.
And it really paid off in the end when she throws up on Chris Evans.
Yeah, Mr. Evans, he's the killer.
Yeah,
because he framed her for. Well, he's not the killer, but he framed her for swishing the medicine or something like that.
Right. If this was your run of the mill murder mystery type deal, it could have been easily assumed that he was the killer. Mm-hmm. But since they took the story in so many different directions and it wasn't so straightforward, even though he did turn out to be the killer, it still pays off in a big way because there's so much more going on. I watched Clue the other night. Well, I watched it growing up. I love that movie. I think its humor is just so great. Funny story. I heard that they were planning on making, a Clue remake for the longest time because, they're remaking everything. And yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But whenever I was in the theater and the Knives Out trailer started coming on, that was the first time I ever saw the trailer. I never heard of, Knives Out or the fact that it was coming out. But whenever the trailer first started coming on, I see all these characters getting interviewed about this, big murder. I'm like, oh, this is the Clue remake. But then as it went on, I'm like, oh no, this is something completely different. And it was. It wasn't a thoughtless remake, and it wasn't just another run-of-the-mill murder mystery. And another thing that I find interesting about the film is the subtle message behind it. You were kind of going into the fact that the family doesn't want Marta to inherit the fortune, and it's not like shoving it down your throat. Reason why? There's a lot of subtle things here and there. One of my favorite instances is the discussion that the family is having by the fire, that kind of middle in the movie scene. They're talking about, relations with immigrants and all this political stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not like outright non-subtly racist. But it's the certain things that they say, kind of like the ignorance behind what they're saying, while at the same time, Marta is, picking up drinks. She's, serving the family. And the one instance that I had in mind was, I can't remember the actor's name, but it's one of the brothers. He's saying something about it, kind of like in support of immigration, in support of like Marta's family and their situation and everything. At the same time, he just like thoughtlessly gives her his drink. He's just a servant, even though they've known her for the longest time.
Right.
I think that was kind of the heart of the movie, or the message of the movie, because you have murder mystery elements here and there, but I think that scene in the movie for me was like, oh, that's what this is about. And I think that the direction that they took with kind of like relaying this message, because for me this isn't even really like the point of this movie isn't it is an entertaining murder mystery, but that's not the point. The point is this like message that they're trying to get across. And like I said, it's very subtle. It's not shoving it down your throat. And if it had been that kind of movie where it's, it's in your face all the time, I think that would have dated it. But as of the way it is now, instead of looking back on it, maybe 10 or 20 years in the future, we won't be saying like, oh, this is just, this is dated. This isn't relevant anymore. I think we'll be looking at it like, oh, this is a product of its time. This is the way things were.
Yeah, the thing with me about the time now, because I never watched a Clue movie, so I know you talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm. And that one's just a much more like just straightforward like slapstick.
Right. But anyways, the thing that I think it's basically a similar plot with Clue and Knives Out, so I think I kind of get the whole concept of Clue. The thing about Knives Out, certain things what got to me, but like I said earlier, the whole family not liking that person. But I think that's really hard to not like somebody after this is a good job for that person. Why can't you just keep it like a person? So,
yeah, right. And I think that's the point. The point is that they're not outright caricatures of this ideology, but there's, like I said, it's very subtle like character traits of these people where you do think of things like that. Well, you say she's been a family friend for the longest time, but you still treat her like a servant.
Yeah.
And that's the disconnect between Christopher Plum, the murdered guy, his character. That's the difference between him and all of his family, who he believes doesn't deserve his inheritance.
Right.
Because he treats her like a person. They pretend that they treat her like a person.
I watched Knives Out for Easter one year during the pandemic started. I bought it, but I somehow never watched it. I think it came out like before the pandemic started, and then it was Easter time. I said, well, let's watch some movies, because I don't know what movie to watch at that point. I said, well, I got Knives Out, and let's watch Knives Out. With me, the whole entire family watched Knives Out that day. And I was like, okay, I get certain parts, but some things I'm like, then the ending, I'm like, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I like that, just like that. So.
It all comes together very well because they don't substitute one for the other. They do have an intriguing, entertaining murder mystery going on while also having everything else that they want to put in.
Did you watch Knives Out in theaters or no?
No, I saw it. I saw it on Amazon Prime later on.
Did you?
But I heard it was good, but I never heard specifically why people thought it was good. And that's my favorite type of movie to go into, when I kind of just get to guess, like, okay, what is it people love about this movie? And then I get to watch it and decide for myself.
What's your rating on Knives Out?
I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, that's not bad. I give it about an 8. I recently watched a movie. It's on Netflix right now. The movie's called Red Notice. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and the girl plays Wonder Woman. I believe her name is, how do you say her name? Gal Gadot?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot, okay. The thing about Red Notice is, okay, it's a Netflix movie. The Rock, he's a cop working with the FBI. He's after the most wanted criminal thief, right? Which is played by Ryan Reynolds. But the problem is, there's another thief basically framed The Rock for murder. And now it's funny though, The Rock and Ryan Reynolds, now they're both in this weird partner-upship, I guess you can say.
Mm-hmm. It's the we're not friends but we are friends kind of trope.
Well, that line, that came from Hobbs and Shaw, believe it or not.
I don't doubt it.
That came from Hobbs and Shaw. Okay, Hobbs and Shaw is a Fast and Furious spinoff. Ryan Reynolds made a cameo in it. Spoiler alert. He basically were saying we're not friends, and I was like, nah, you got that from Hobbs and Shaw. I know it for sure.
Wait a minute, Jesse. So you're telling me two roles that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson played are similar?
What makes you say that?
It was, I was being sarcastic.
Okay.
Well, they are, but
yeah. But anyways, then Ryan Reynolds basically saying, "We are best friends." And I was like, you got them two guys from Hobbs Shaw that had to. And I rewatched that clip. I was like, I was right. But the movie, I thought it was all right. I mean, I feel like it kind of dragged on for being like an hour, 40 something minutes, close to 2 hours. But the problem is though about that movie, it didn't feel like it wasn't really that much excitement, you know.
So, did you see the trailer for it before you watched it, or did you kind of come across it on Netflix?
I watched the trailer for it.
See, when you watched the trailer, did it kind of come off as like a action comedy to you?
I mean, I don't mind an action comedy. Like,
yeah, but like when you saw the trailer, is that what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that was my biggest problem with this movie, which I enjoyed parts of it. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. Just like kind of like Jesse alluded to, it doesn't really make that much of an impact as much as it could have. And that's kind of the same with these types of movies. The comedy doesn't come from the action. For me, this movie was more wanted to be an action movie, wanted to be a comedy movie. So what they did, they had action sequences, and in between they put in like riffs, like comedy moments for the actors.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, I really like Gal Gadot's character, if I say it right. The thing with her character, because she's supposed to be the one thing that they're after, but you know what made no sense about that movie? The Rock basically said, when he got framed, he basically told Ryan Reynolds' character that if you can help me, I'll make you become the number one thief in the world again. I go, okay, for one, why would a cop help you become a number one thief again? That makes no sense to me, you know? So certain things, it just made no sense. And then at the end, I'm not gonna say it because spoiler alert, but I'm not gonna say it. But the ending, you'll get the why. You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense because the ending has a little twist at the end. I was like,
yeah, I think I kind of know what you're talking about, and I'm not gonna say what the twist is, but I'm just saying it's one of those twists that doesn't work. And the reason that these types of twists don't work is it seems like they kind of threw it in for a twist's sake. When you go back, and they do have like flashbacks to stuff that kind of alluded to it, but when you go back, you're like, if you took this twist out, this movie would still make sense. Like it kind of, they just wanted like that, you know, shock.
But I thought Ryan Reynolds did good in this one, and I think all the actors did good.
I think they did good for what they were like hired to do. Yeah. But for me, the reason they have these actors so they can kind of play themselves. And I like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's good as Deadpool. I can't really think of another example. I've heard it's called like Coffin or Underground or something. He's like trapped in a coffin. I've heard that's good, but I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it is good.
Is it Buried?
I think Buried is the...
I think I know what we're talking. It's a movie that he's trapped the whole time. I think it's called Buried.
Okay,
but so I think that's the one. But I haven't watched it either.
So I think whenever Ryan Reynolds started playing Deadpool, he kind of became this character that they put in movies to kind of like act the same. And it's the same with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He kind of just plays the same character in every movie. Yeah. It seems like. So they hired these people so that they can just be these characters that people like, even though they're not familiar with the movie. If they don't like the movie, they'll at least like the characters, and that doesn't really seem like a legit like acting choice to me.
Yeah. But the movie, it was all right. So I'll give it about a 7 out of 10, only because it wasn't like woohoo, you know. Okay, you know, it's decent for what it is. You know?
Yeah.
So, but that's my opinion for Red Notice.
I'll give it a 4 out of 10. No, okay. I have a couple examples of things that I did like in this movie. So for like a comedy joke that I liked, I'll reveal just one. A lot of it is just riffing, which I don't really like in movies because it's kind of like you just turn the camera on and let the actor just talk, and then you just kind of cut out what you want. But there was one legit joke that I thought was pretty funny. The Rock finds Ryan Reynolds in like his hiding spot, and this is in the beginning of the movie. He finds his like, you know, little getaway, and he mentions that he's kind of bringing up like past crimes that they're trying to get him for. And he's like, "You stole this painting," and he's like, "No, I didn't." And then the cut is perfect. They turn and the painting is on the wall right next to them. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny.
And then he said something like, "I got that at something." I can't remember the exact line, but
I just remember laughing about that in the movie. Yeah. And one of the action things that I liked was whenever they're in the helicopter and they're flying away, and I won't give away too many details, but they're getting away in a helicopter and someone shoots a missile at them from a rocket launcher, and The Rock, I love it because it's just so ridiculous. The Rock like swings around the outside of the helicopter and like opens a door so that both doors on the side of the helicopter are open, and the missile perfectly just flies through the helicopter out the other side.
Stupid.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing I want from an action comedy. I don't want you to go, like legit action where you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, oh, this is so ridiculous. I love this.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I find funny in an action comedy. Like Hot Fuzz is a good example. That's kind of like the action comedy that I enjoy. And I know I've read notice. I've kind of been dragging it. Like I don't really like it, but one kind of random thing I will give credit where credit's due. Another thing I like about the movie, the dance scene in the middle where they're at the guy's house. The music at that party is really good, and they actually kind of like show the band and they show the singer, and she's really good, the band is really good, and for the most part the movie, the background music is just generic action music. You'll kind of hear it in every action movie, but that one scene where they're like dancing, the band's music is playing in the background, and I thought that was kind of rare. I'd like to think that they actually got this band and recorded them so that they could get background music, because they have them in the scene, but it's also in the background when they're like moving around and talking and dancing and things like that. And that just kind of came out to me when I was watching. I'm like, oh man, this is really good. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. They kind of like zoom in on the singer and she hits this high note. It's great.
The ending joke I thought was funny that Ryan Reynolds made. He said, I missed out on audition with Vin Diesel with the cats. I started laughing.
That was kind of like a random riff thing.
I know. That's what's funny about it. I don't think Ryan Reynolds I don't think that part was in the script. I think he just said it.
He probably did. They probably brought Ryan Reynolds in for a lot of that stuff.
But anyway, that's my opinion per Noah's 7 out of 10, and yours is like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, I'll move it up to a 5 out of 10. It's just kind of average for me. There were things that I did like about it, but I don't think that it went all the way.
Yeah. And Trent, you said you watched a movie you're telling me about, and you said it's horrible.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jesse. This movie is fantastic. Okay, so I mentioned to you that there was a trailer out for a movie, Home Sweet Home Alone. I don't know if that's the full title. It might be Home Sweet Home Alone, Reawakening, Rebirth, Reimagining, but I don't know. I'll just call it Home Sweet Home Alone. It's a Home Alone remake, and man, it's so good. No, I know, I'm kidding. This movie is bad. The trailer was bad. And what I wanted to do with you was actually like have you react to the trailer, because I thought that this movie hadn't come out yet, but it came out like last month. I thought this was going to be like a November or December release, because it's a Christmas movie, but it's out. And I was flipping through Disney Plus and I saw it, so I watched it. And I know you haven't seen it, but yeah, I have stuff to say. So this is just another thoughtless remake. There are remakes that are good. This is not one of them. And okay, so you've seen the original Home Alone.
Yes, I enjoy Home Alone 1 and 2. The sequels.
Yeah, that's another thing. There were sequels, and some of them were like direct to DVD. One of them was direct to VHS. I don't know if you can find it on DVD. I know I had it on VHS. Home Alone 4. Nobody ever talks about that one. 4 is so weird. It's like they bring him back, and it's Kevin. It's different actors all around, but it's Kevin, and he's younger, and some of his family members aren't there, and like Marv is back, but they bring in an actor that looks like Harry. It's weird. I mean, if you can find it, by all means check it out, but I think they only had it on VHS. I've never seen it on DVD. But anyway, this movie, it's not a direct remake where it's Kevin and Buzz and all that, but they have a new character who's a Kevin stand-in. They have the mom character who is the mom stand-in. They have the two burglars who are not stand-ins. They're actually very different. The weird thing about this movie is that the burglars are the main characters. So what happens is, in the beginning, I don't remember his name. I'm just going to call him Kevin. So the Kevin kid is driving with his mom, and he has to use the bathroom. So they go to this open house. They're going there pretending like they want to buy the house, but he just has to use the bathroom. Funny. But and the open house is held by this couple, and they're very nice people. They're like down on their luck, and the reason they're selling their house is because they're down on their luck. And what happens is there's this misunderstanding where they think that Kevin stole like this doll that they owned. And he looks it up on eBay later, and the doll is worth like $200,000. So the whole plot of this movie is that the two people, I have their names, Pam and Jeff. Those are the burglars in the movie. It's Pam and Jeff, just like your average neighborhood people. They need money, and this doll can kind of save them from their troubles. But they think that the Kevin kid stole it. So that's the whole reason they're breaking into the house, is they just want their doll back. Which makes it kind of like cruel when later on he's, setting traps off for them and they're getting like really like brutally injured. It's so convoluted in a way where they could have just said to the parents, hey, can we have our doll back? But it's a goofy kids movie, so they got to break in. And they go through the Home Alone motions. The Kevin kid, he's annoyed by his family, like in the original. I have his name here. I'm going to stop calling him the Kevin kid. His name is Max. So the Kevin kid is Max. So Max is annoyed by his family, but also like you don't really see why he's annoyed by his family. They kind of show that like they're playing video games and he wants to play video games and they won't let him play video games. And like I think that's the only reason. Like his mom won't give him soda. That's another reason. Like average kid stuff. And there's no, like the emotional payoff is nowhere near as powerful as the original, where you have so much buildup in that one like pizza scene where you see him like tell his family off and like everybody hates him, and which there is a lesson to be learned in the original. He shouldn't have been that way, but since there is a lesson and it was showed off in such an effective way, when you have that emotional impact at the end when they're finally reunited, it works. But with this kid he's just a brat.
More brat than Kevin was. Yeah,
he's trying to. They try to make him like clever, and he's like telling off his family, and they're just like shut up, kid.
So the one thing I'll say about these Home Alone movies, I absolutely love the first two, but the remake, the way you're telling me, it just sounds horrible because. I was telling a couple of guys the other day, actually, we talk about remakes, right? And Trent, you were telling me about the Home Alone remake was awful.
Right.
And then I said, someone asked me about Chucky, right? I'm going to use Child's Play for it.
Yeah, the Child's Play remake.
Yeah. I just said, I thought Child's Play remake, that was just freaking terrible. I don't even know why.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the Child's Play movies, so.
But I was using that for example. Sometimes remakes are just plumb terrible that this is unreal,
When you remake a movie as iconic as Home Alone and you don't even add anything to it, a common idea that people have been throwing around, which I really wish that they would do this, is bring back Macaulay Culkin, bring back Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci, bring back these like characters and make it where like, I don't know, maybe Kevin has a kid in the future, or make it like a dark like future where like they're after him for revenge and he's making like saw traps for them and stuff. I don't know. Even if it's bad, it would be different, and it would be so much better than this. This one, they just go through the motions, and well, like for example, he falls asleep in the car in the garage. That's why they forget him. And when he literally, I don't know if you can remember in the original, he walks downstairs in the morning after they've left. He's turning on the TV. He's waiting for breakfast. There's like 3 scenes, and then he's like, something's going on. So there's kind of like a build up to where they both realize that he's home alone. In this one, he just walks out of the garage, looks around, calls for people, and it takes like 10 seconds for him to realize he's home alone. So they're going through the motions. They're just not doing it as good.
Right.
They're kind of rushing through it because they feel like they have to because it's a remake. And so I mean, it's kind of the same in every Home Alone movie, but his family is relatively wealthy. But for some reason, like every trap that he builds is made of like a toy that he has or something. But for some reason, they have a scene where he goes to the church toy drive, for underprivileged children who can't have a Merry Christmas, and he steals a water gun. And that's like his main weapon for the movie.
Oh my crap.
I don't even know why they put that in. I don't understand why they would make him steal a toy from the church drive. I don't know if they thought it was funny or what. When you think of like Home Alone 2, right? The whole reason Kevin is going after the burglars in that version is because they're stealing toys from the toy store that are going to be donated to this shelter for underprivileged kids who don't have who don't have, I don't know if it's an orphanage, but like don't have parents or whatever for Christmas.
Right.
And I think of like, if Kevin was in this movie, he would think that this kid is an antagonist too. He would be beating up on him, you know, because it's kind of the same concept of what Harry and Marv were doing. I mean, it's not to the same degree, but it's kind of the same concept of what they were doing in Home Alone 2. So that just kind of felt weird to me, because it's not something that's necessary. It's just kind of something they threw in. He could have just had the toy gun at his house, like everything else.
That's just silly to me.
It was so weird.
But
yeah. Buzz is in this movie, and not just the same actor, like the character. So this movie is canonically in the same universe as the original Home Alone, yet somehow like a lot of stuff is going the same, which is weird, but you know, that's fine. But the one thing I did think was kind of clever was Buzz is a cop in this movie. And
Really?
and whenever the burglars come there the first night, the alarm goes off and he shows up. And like they kind of just play it off and he lets him go. He's not a very good cop. And later on in the movie, he's in his patrol car and there's this scene where somebody calls in, the parents call in from on vacation, and they say that their kid is home alone. And he's like, no, negative, that's just a prank call or whatever. And they're like, are you sure? You don't want to check it out? And he's saying, yeah, no, my brother calls that in every year because we left him home alone when he was a kid twice. So it's just a prank call. He's doing that to mess with me. So I guess that's kind of the explanation for why the police don't show up. And I thought it was pretty funny for him to acknowledge that they left him home alone twice. And just the fact that like in this universe, they don't show him, but like Kevin grown up is, you know, like resentful of his family, and he never let it go. Which, why would you? You know, he would be bitter, and if anybody broke into his house, he would know what to do. I mean, probably just blow him away with a shotgun.
one thing, Trent, I'll ask you about this remake. Did the mother of the boy's character name? I know the original was Kevin, but did this one yell like Max or something?
No, they don't even do that, which, I mean, it probably wouldn't have been earned if they did it anyway. But yeah, the scene, it's literally like an audio dub over. She's like, you left my son home alone, and then it just cuts to a scene of them in the, because what happens in this version, they don't show like the frantic morning or whatever. There wasn't like, you know, an alarm not going off or whatever. Max's parents left early, like they left the day before, and his uncle and his kids, they're the ones leaving. So Jeff, the male burglar, goes over that morning and he's like, hey, can I talk to this kid's mom because he stole my doll? And the uncle is like, no, get out of here, we're busy, you know. And that's the whole reason why they can't just, you know, talk about this like adults. That's the explanation they give. So it's just the fact that he fell asleep in the car and his uncle didn't bother to like check for him. Like that's the reason why he gets left behind. And they just have this scene where she's like, how could you like leave my kid? And he's like, there's a lot of kids, you know, whatever. It's so, I don't know.
But the movie is not worth watching.
No, not really. Keep going on with sequels and stop remaking stuff. Like, you know, give us an old bitter Kevin doing like a Don't Breathe type thing, you know.
The one thing I'll say about Home Alone, recently there's a commercial that I seen on Facebook. Who plays the mother?
The mother, O'Hara.
In this commercial, I thought that was kind of funny. She like, Kevin. And, you know, she's looking around, and then she finally sees Kevin again, and Kevin Hart comes up and says, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? You know?
Oh, yeah, I did see that. And they did a commercial with an older Macaulay Culkin redoing the scene where he wakes up in that morning. I can't remember what it was for. I don't know if it was like a phone or something, but I don't know. It was some tech stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, and the Kevin Hart at the end, he said, I can't believe less than another Kevin is a holiday tradition. So yeah, this movie, it plays it so safe. It's so factory produced. It looks like a Hallmark movie. It doesn't look like a real movie. It looks, you know, it's
bland.
So it's garbage.
Pretty much garbage. Just watch the original. It's on Disney Plus too. I should have mentioned that this is a Disney Plus original. But yeah, the original Home Alones are on. If you want to watch a Home Alone movie for Christmas, just watch the original. Don't keep buying into this Disney factory produced remake bullcrap, you know. Just stop. If we stop, they'll stop. Understand. But anyway, yeah, 10 out of 10. Good movie. Should win every Oscar. Yeah. No, I'll give this movie a paint can to the face out of 10. Well, Anyway,
this has been our episode for the After School Podcast. Sorry if you like these movies we talk about. If we hate them, we are so sorry, but that's just our opinions.
just let us know in the comments your reason for why what's the name of it? Home Sweet Home Alone. Let us know your reasoning for why you think it's a masterpiece and we were 100% wrong. And Red Notice too, I guess.
Yeah, Red Notice. Red Notice, yeah, it's okay, I guess. This is Jesse Johns.
Trent Kelsey, and away we go.
Goodbye.